And when I left the radio on yesterday, I had made it down to the matter of the princes. In Ezekiel 22, verse number 27, her princes in the midst thereof are like wolves ravening the prey. We have a conspiracy that is laid out here in Israel, a conspiracy between the prophets, the priest, and the princes. The prophets, the priest, and the princes have conspired together against the Lord God, against God's people. They have conspired together against the land. They have conspired together against the covenant that God made, the Palestinian covenant that God made and established between Himself and the land of Canaan. And there are many applications. Now I recognize the interpretation. I'm a literalist, and I'm very strict on finding the interpretation of the passage. Before you ever do anything with an application, you need to find out the interpretation. The interpretation here is entirely Israel, and it is entirely in relation to the Palestinian covenant of Deuteronomy 28, 29, and 30. But by application, you and I discern that men in every age are the same. There's no new thing under the sun. What has been shall be. And men do not change. And what you and I are observing among the princes in Israel of old, we observe in our state capital today. We observe in Washington, D.C. We observe among the deep state, the bureaucratic state, all of these alphabet soup agencies that operate outside the Constitution. Her princes today are just the same as they've ever been. We talk about crooked politicians. Well, they had them back in BC 593, and Ezekiel preached against them, just like I'm trying to preach against them on the Bright Spot Hour today. Her princes in the midst thereof are like wolves ravening the prey. What an apt description of these elected officials, these princes. They are like wolves that sink their teeth into the prey and shake their head back and forth violently to shed blood, wringing the blood out of the body of the prey, rather than having honor and respect for the people that vote for them and respecting the people that they represent and allegedly serve. They shed the blood of those people. And there are two other things that are dealt with in this verse that are right in line with what you and I are observing at this very moment. What you and I have been observing in the course of our lives. And it has become more and more pronounced. They're not trying to hide it. I mean, it's out in the open for everybody to see. Her princes, these elected officials, in the midst thereof are like wolves ravening the prey to shed blood. Number 3, to destroy souls. To destroy souls. And I have observed that over the last 4 years, as I have seen the violent hatred and the vitriolic hatred of President Trump. I mean, I remember they hated Reagan. I voted for Reagan. And they hated him, but they didn't hate him like they hate this man. And they have done everything they can to destroy the people that love him and support him and voted for him. Many of those people are the same people that I preach to on the Bright Spot Hour, the same people I go to church with, the same people that I stand before and look at when I'm holding revival meetings, when I'm out on the road preaching. I'm preaching to people. I had one man make a comment one time, and he was in a camp meeting service, and he said, well, there were some Trump supporters in front of me, and their children were down in the sawdust playing while the preacher was trying to preach. When I was a child, I played in the sawdust at the camp meeting too, and my children played in the sawdust at the open-air camp meetings whenever they were children. But that was his way of responding. Some Trump supporters sitting in front of me. They've done everything they can to destroy the souls of the people. Now we have this big promotion of communism. We need communism. We need socialism. We need a guaranteed job, a guaranteed place to live, a guaranteed wage. That's what they had in Russia. It was a third world country with a first world military. That's what they have in China. And many of their people live on a third world level, except for the proletariat, the princes, and they live in the lap of luxury. But if you're not in the Chinese Communist Party, forget about living a lavish lifestyle while you'll live in a hovel. You'll live like people in the third world live. As you look at what socialism does to people, look at Venezuela. 25 years ago, 30 years ago, Venezuela was one of the richest countries in the world, the richest country in Central America. Paved highway system, modern technology, telephones, fax machines, the cutting edge, the beginning of the computer age, air conditioning, a very modern country with all kind of natural resources, loaded with oil, reserves, diamonds, gold, ruby, silver mines, everything you can think of, until communism took over there under Hugo Chavez. And the souls of those people have been destroyed. The people in East Germany, when compared during the old Eastern Bloc time of the Cold War, after World War II and up into the 90s, the people that lived in the Eastern Bloc were very colorless and soulless individuals. Their souls were destroyed by the communist government that lorded over them. They were held down so that they could not achieve. That's exactly what the Federal Reserve System has done to the people in the United States. Before the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, an acre of land in 1900 cost about $1,000. That acre of land in 1800, 100 years earlier, cost about $1,000. There was virtually no inflation. And the founding fathers and the colonial era of the United States, this is the way wealth was built. And most men built wealth by accumulation, the accumulation of things. If I work hard, labor industriously, and I make $1,000, I can buy an acre of land. And if I make another $1,000, I can buy another acre of land. And if I make a third $1,000, I'll buy a third acre of land. First thing you know, after 20 or 30 years, the man has accumulated 200, 300, 400 acres. But since the Federal Reserve, we've had this terrible thing called inflation. And inflation robs from people the ability to create wealth, to become independently wealthy. Of course, communist people and people that want to lord over the populace have difficulty lording over wealthy individuals. They don't want people to be wealthy. They want themselves to be wealthy, which is the way it was in the Eastern Bloc. And the inflation causes such a rapid rise in the cost of things that you soon get on a treadmill. If I had the income when my wife and I married 35 years ago, 36 years ago, if I had the income then that I have now, I would have been much, much better off then than I am now with that income. But what has happened is inflation, and that's from the printing of money, which we have from the Federal Reserve. That's the only product they have, is the printing of money. That's it. And the more money they print, the less value each dollar has. And so you're making more money today than you've ever made in your life, but you can't seem to get ahead because of that terrible, insidious thing called inflation. And it destroys the souls of people. People say, well, why work hard? Why save? Why play by the rules? Why pay my taxes? Why be a good citizen? Why do everything I'm supposed to be doing? I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm barely able to make ends meet. And they have the same scenario that I have. My first house payment when my wife and I married was $355 a month. And I wondered, how in the world am I ever going to pay this? I'll lose this house, $355 a month. How will I ever pay for this? People today have house payments of $3,500 a month in house payments, some people. And a lot of people have $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month house payments. And they say, I'm playing by the rules, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm trying to live for Christ, I'm trying to be a testimony, I'm doing everything the law tells me to do, the law of the land, I'm living and I'm obedient, and I can't get ahead. And I look at this fellow over here, and he's making millions, breaking the law. And I look at this politician over here, and he's making millions, $50,000, $60,000 a month on side deals, illegal side deals, because of his position, selling his vote, selling his office. And that destroys the souls of the people. Then again, notice what he says about the princes, the last phrase in verse 27, to get dishonest gain. To get dishonest gain. You know, it's interesting, I said this on the broadcast yesterday. I don't know of any poor politicians, especially on the federal level. I don't know of any poor politicians. And there are more millionaires among leftists, Democratic Socialist leftists. Bernie Sanders is a socialist. He owns 3 houses. Lives in one for a while, goes and lives in another for a while, goes and lives in another for a while. He's worth beyond $1 million. Millions of dollars. Notice he moved his statement up that we're going to tax billionaires. He stopped talking about millionaires because he is one. And he's socialist. He believes that everything ought to be divided up evenly among the masses. Everything that you have, but not everything that he has. There aren't any poor politicians. They go up there and they don't get make a good income. They get wealthy. I mean, fabulously wealthy. To get dishonest gain. How often have you and I, in the last 12 months, been told of the record of princes, politicians, government officials that have sold their office, have sold their contacts, have sold their name, and because of that they have become fabulously wealthy? Nobody says anything about it. And they do that on the backs of their people. The people are beaten down, they're downtrodden, they're discouraged, they're despondent, they are uncertain. And all the prophets do, in verse 28, and I have to stop here because I'm running out of time, but the prophets have daubed them with untempered mortar, seeing vanity and divining lies unto them. That's what they tell the people, saying, Thus saith the Lord God, when the Lord hath not spoken. By the grace of God, I will deal with that on the broadcast tomorrow, and I hope you'll be listening to the Bright Spot Hour at that time. God bless you, and goodbye.
Write Dr. Carver at Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina 29602.